Hello lovelies, in this video we're going through the future of water supplies for your A-level in environmental science. We've also written you an example essay. If you're in the playlist, it's going to be the next video down. If you're in the masterclass or the bootcamp, it's going to be in the next section down. So once you finish looking at the content in this, you can go and have a go yourself at the essay that we've done and then see how we structure the paragraphs, the A1, the A2, the A3, and then link it all together to get top marks.
Lesson 12, The Future of Water Supplies. Demand for water. The demand for water is increasing as the population increases, as well as the per capita usage thanks to appliances such as washing machines and dishwashers. In order to secure future supplies, we may need to rely on doing two things: managing current water supplies sustainably to prevent depletion, and finding new sources of water to exploit to ensure surplus. The first technique we can use to manage current water supplies is the artificial recharge of aquifers. This will help prevent the overexploitation of aquifers, which can have lots of negative impacts, as we talked about in our aquifer video. We can pump water down to known aquifers using an injection well when there is a surplus, for example after a bout of heavy rainfall. This aquifer supply can then be used in times of a shortage. In the energy industry, this would be known as peak shaving, saving surplus for future shortage. Another technique used to artificially recharge aquifers is a recharge reservoir. This is when a large body of water is situated above the aquifer to encourage infiltration and percolation down into the aquifer. This technique would only work if the rock above the aquifer is permeable. Another way in which we can manage water sources sustainably is the use of river regulation reservoirs. These are reservoirs, large bodies of water, created to regulate the flow of the river they are placed within. By storing surplus water, it prevents flooding of the river, which can lead to a waste of water. And by releasing when there is a shortage, it will ensure there is a big enough supply to meet demand. If you look at the graph, you can see the regulation helps keep supply consistent throughout the year, without having a shortage in supply or a surplus that will be wasted. Another technique that has been used is called interbasin transfers. This is where water is transferred between an area with a surplus to an area of a shortage, using canals and pipe networks. Whilst this technique is helpful if the infrastructure is present, it cannot be used in areas with no infrastructure, as it would cost a lot of money to build, whilst also causing environmental impacts such as habitat fragmentation. Furthermore, this is not a long-term solution. It is designed to help those in areas in the most need temporarily. Another method would need to be used in conjunction with it to ensure the area with a shortage could gain a more stable water supply. The planting of trees can also affect the availability of water in an area. The tree roots help to aerate the soil and therefore reduce runoff into rivers. Leaf litter gets decomposed and the dead organic matter increases soil fertility, encouraging the survival of soil biota such as worms, which further help to aerate the soil. Their leafy canopies intercept the rainwater as it falls from the sky to reduce the volume flowing into the rivers at one time. Both features help reduce the chance of fluctuations in river levels, which in turn reduces the likelihood of flooding. However, trees also release water vapour into the atmosphere via transpiration. This process increases precipitation in areas of downwind, potentially leading to flooding. Another way to conserve water is establishing low-volume uses into society. This can include designing and producing low-water usage appliances such as dishwashers and washing machines. We could also plant public spaces with plants that can survive with minimal water, to reduce the need for watering them. Using drip irrigation as an alternative to the traditional only delivers a small amount of water to each individual plant to reduce wastage. We could also recycle any used water that is still fairly clean, known as grey water. For example, we could use shower water to water plants or flush the toilets. Finally, we can reduce the water that is wasted by ensuring all pipe networks are well maintained to prevent leakage. As well as fixing leaking taps within houses and installing water usage meters so people pay for the volume that they use, hopefully encouraging them to use less. How can we exploit new sources of water in the future? Firstly, we can encourage individual households to collect rainwater. This rainwater could be used in ways that do not require the water to be drinkable, for example, watering the plants. This will be important in cities whose public water supply cannot meet demand for the large population, for example, lots of cities in India. Another benefit of doing this will be the reduction of urban flooding and the reduced pressure on the drainage infrastructure. As the water will be collected before it reaches the ground, it will be fairly clean. Of course, one drawback to this proposal is that this won't work in arid areas who do not receive much rainfall. As well as this, the rainwater collection tanks may need to be quite large in order to meet demand, which could be an eyesore or unable to fit on people's property. Another potential new resource are rivers. They are a very convenient source of water, as there are many of them across the globe, often close to civilization. They also stretch across large expanses of land, so are readily accessible to many people. The ability to use a certain river would depend on the total volume of water flow, how they fluctuate, and the risk of being contaminated by natural or human pollutants. Generally, natural contaminants don't pose a serious problem, but man-made chemicals can be extremely toxic, such as pesticides. As a result, the water would have to be heavily tested and cleaned before usage to ensure public safety. Estuary barrages are similar to reservoirs, but are located on an estuary where a river meets the sea. It is a freshwater reservoir with a dam that goes across the entire width of the estuary. Placing the reservoirs and dams here has far fewer land conflicts than inland, but they can create a barrier to certain species' movement and shipping routes. Could seawater be used as a water source? The main advantage of using seawater is its abundance. There is lots available. However, as it is salty, it would need to be desalinated and have the salt removed for most uses. This process requires lots of energy in the form of fossil fuels to complete, so is expensive and therefore would not be suitable to carry out on the scale required to meet demand. This technique would only be used if there was a serious shortage in the supply of fresh water. Exam top tip. In your exam, they could give you any case study, potentially one you've never heard of before, and ask you how they could manage water supplies sustainably. You are not expected to learn every single case study there is across the globe. Instead, when the question is like that, they want you to recall the techniques we have talked about in this video and apply them to that case study.
Ouch! This is why in some videos I explain scratches.